Happy Tuesday. Tuesday has arrived. It's time for another Imperfect Action live stream. In case you were curious in what you're watching, this is it. This is the Imperfect Action live stream. Who am I? I am Rob Fenstermaker, former corporate burnout survivor turned kingdom builder. What is a kingdom builder? You know what? I help you get out of the ditch. I help you take action. I help you to create that solid foundation for your life and bring clarity to what it is you want to do. If you want to have a conversation, jump on my calendar and let's do that. Hey, I just want to talk about a couple things. This Friday coming up is the virtual Friday Whiskey Hour. That's an opportunity to bring your work week to an end while having some meaningful conversation, while maybe sipping your favorite beverage. Maybe it's whiskey, maybe it's beer, maybe it's a glass of wine, maybe it's just water. Doesn't matter. Stop by and enjoy the conversation. Next Tuesday, I do the Iron Sharpens Iron community. It's a way to bring people together as we share life, as we try and take that next step in what it is we want to accomplish in life. But again, it's time for the Imperfect Action live stream. Why do I call it the Imperfect Action live stream? Because you know what? There is no such thing as the perfect time. People will sit around and wait for the perfect time to do something with their life, and they do nothing. I say take the imperfect action. Just do something with your life. That's what imperfect action is about. Regardless, here we are. It's time to introduce my guest. My guest today, Hank Eder, a PR and marketing professional who is your one-stop shop for all things marketing and PR. He's also known as MC Biz Booma.
In the house.
He is in the house. MC Biz Booma is here. Hank, thanks for stopping by the Imperfect Action live stream. I know you got some amazing things going on. What amazing things have gone on in your day so far?
Well, it's been one of the days where I've already had like 4 meetings, so
Good.
today was a day of action for sure.
That is. That's fantastic. You already had 4. Yeah, hey, that is killing it right there. And those meetings are important. We got to get to have those meetings if we want to be productive with our business. Those meetings are required.
Those meetings are a must. If we
They
just
are a
sit in
must.
our cave and never reach out to anybody and expect that the world is going to come to us, then we become one
Yeah,
of the ones who's leaving butt prints in the sands of
yeah.
time. And that's a lot.
Footprints. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Those are the people that want the perfect time before they do anything. They do whatever, and they just think, well, everybody knows what I. Oh, no, they don't. Nobody knows what you're doing if you're just going to sit in your cave with and create those butt prints in time. You've got to do something. Leave the footsteps. Leave your mark. Leave your. I call it leave your legacy. Create that significance, and that's what life is about. I think every day is an opportunity to do just that. We have to embrace the opportunities that are in this thing called today. They're not in yesterday, they're not in tomorrow, they are in today. And too many people miss that reality.
Yeah, I'm fond of it's a cliche, but I'm fond of it. They say that today is always a great opportunity, it's always a gift. And that's why they call it the present. And even though that's a cliche, it's words to live by. I love that.
Yeah, and I love the kitschy cliches because you know what? There's a lot of truth in it. And yeah, I know they can get old and tired, but there's a lot of truth in those cliches. And sometimes they just give you that thing to live by and keep your focus. I just say keep your main thing as your main thing. And when you know what your main thing is, it makes life so much easier, makes it so much more productive.
Yeah, because another cliche, if you don't know where you're going, it doesn't matter how you get there.
Doesn't matter. You're going to arrive. You're going to arrive at some place. You just better make certain it's the place you want to arrive. And that's who I used to be. I used to be that person that was just kind of wandering around aimlessly. And then, yeah, I finally figured out, I'm going to arrive somewhere. I better make certain it's what I want to do. So I got clarity around what it is I wanted to do, got focus, and hey, all bets are off at that point. When you're clear on what you want to do, I call it you got that soul, that fire burning down in your soul. All bets are off at that point because to me, fire's powerful. Fire purifies, fire lights the way. And when fire touches something, something new is reborn. Something new comes out of that.
Right. And then for those who are really resilient, some of us have been and will be again burned in that fire and sometimes
Mhm.
burned to ash. But then there's
Yeah,
that old powerful symbol of the phoenix that rises
yeah,
from the ashes and comes back more powerful than before.
absolutely.
And that was the same, that's the same metaphor And I'm a real geek for the Lord of the Rings. I mean, I like the
Oh,
movies, but I'm
I,
talking
I
about the
love
book.
the Lord of the I love the Lord of the Rings. Love the Lord of
Yeah,
the
I'm
Rings.
talking about the books, but that's the same metaphor as Gandalf coming back after having
Yeah,
died in Moria by
yeah,
fighting this creature of fire. So he was forged again in the fire and rose far more powerful than he left.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love the Lord of the Rings. In December, I'm going to New Zealand. I'm going to New Zealand. It was just kind of a trip that kind of came up. I'm like, hey, let's do this. And the funny thing is, the couple that we're traveling with, they're very much into Star Wars. And I'm like, we're going to go down and visit where they filmed the Lord of the Rings. We're going to do that. And I encouraged them, like, you got to watch. We got to watch Lord of the Rings before we go. And I told them very pointedly. And I know I might piss a lot of people off. Lord of the Rings is so much better than Star Wars, the Star Wars story. So much better. And I absolutely believe it. And I've seen Star Wars. I get the story. And I know it's more popular and it's got more whatever. But I think the story of Lord of the Rings is just a better story.
Well, it's got everything, it's got the hero's journey, which Star Wars really was the hero's journey. But Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings has the hero's journey. It has selflessness, it has sacrifice,
Hmm.
it has small deeds done by small people, it has
Yeah.
love, it has commitment, it has people who will not give up no matter what. I mean, Star Wars had some of those things,
Yeah.
but
It
Lord of
does.
the Rings, yeah, to me, and I loved Star Wars too. But in the final analysis, you look at the whole franchise, and mostly what is it? It's war among the stars. That's Star Wars, yeah.
That's it. That's it. So I'm looking forward to this trip. Like I said, it's going to be doing Australia and New Zealand. And most of the people I've talked to that have done those, they said New Zealand is so much more intense. And I mean, we're gonna have fun in Australia, but I'm really looking forward to New Zealand just because all the pictures I've seen of it are just kind of off the charts, and I'm just like, this has got to be cool. It's gonna be cool.
Well, I once heard a comedian say that in Australia, I'm not good at the accent, mate, but they say in Australia the national sport. This is what this comedian said. The national sport is getting drunk and throwing up on other people's cars, and they have 250 words for throwing up, including liquid lunch, talking to the toilet, and talking on the big white telephone. But they do like to have fun. They do
I
like
do
to
like
have
to have
fun.
fun. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm looking forward to both adventures. So it's just it's just opportunity, and yeah, I guess my wife and I we've hit that point in our lives where we're looking more for experiences. I just don't want to go on vacation for the sake of going on vacation. I want to do something that I get something out of it, that I get that I receive an experience, and that's what's fun. I mean, yes, do I like going to the beach and sitting on? Yeah, okay, but you know what? I live a mile from the beach, so I don't need to fly somewhere else to go sit on a beach. I can, like I told you before we got on here, I walked down to the beach today and just kind of and headed back home. Just went for a little walk. So I'm close enough to the beach that I can walk to the beach. But I want experiences. I want experience, and that's part of my story. That's part of my story is I want those experiences to be part of my story, and story is part of what marketing is about.
That's right. And story used effectively, meaning that it has some real relevance for the points that you're trying to make and for the audience that you're trying to reach. Story is so extremely powerful. It's but again, it has to be, you can't just tell a story for the sake of telling a story. It has to
Yeah.
have some tie-in to the point you're trying to make, and a lot of people miss that.
Yeah. So, as a marketing professional, what are some of your favorite marketing campaigns that you've seen through the years that just told a fantastic story of the brand of whatever it is that they were trying to get out into the public space?
Well, we have to look at some of the iconic brands. They had their logo, they had their slogan, and their slogan really stuck with us. And
Hmm.
some of us can, I mean, how many people do you know that can sing the McDonald's jingle? I could sing it. I
Yeah.
won't, but I can sing it, and people can recite it. And a friend of ours, I'm talking about Adrian Betts. He recently was
Hmm.
using the notion that when he teaches people teamwork, in his warehouse operations, he has them memorize the McDonald's jingle because the ones that don't know
Yeah.
it can learn it, and then if they can learn it, they can become more of a team player. But the point I'm making with that is that we all know that jingle. Uh, I'm talking about the two all beef patties
Two
one.
all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese. Two all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions
Pickles,
on a
onions,
sesame seed bun. Yeah.
exactly. And then of course there was "You Deserve a Break Today," and
Yeah.
yeah, so that's an iconic brand. Another iconic brand is Nike.
Mhm.
They've got their swoosh and they have their "Just Do It." When you
Just do it.
see "Just Do It," who do you think of? You think of Nike. So
Right.
I don't know if this was necessarily story, but yeah, I could go back to another example, and I can't name the company because it's been a while since I read this, but in Donald Miller's Story brand, and it's
Hmm.
a guide to using stories in your marketing and how stories can really reach your audience. He was
Right.
talking about having a client who they did some incredibly high end state of the art painting for products,
Yeah.
and they weren't getting anywhere. Their website showed this process and that process, and our process is state of the art, and here's how we do this, and here's where we do that. And it was a big yawn. Uh, basically, Donald Miller told them, just show us a guy in a white lab coat holding the paint gun and talking about what are the greatest benefits you will get from your process. Nobody cares about your process. Nobody cares about your credentials. But if you tell a good story about how someone really benefited from this process or from your service without being, self what's the word I'm looking for? Self promoting,
Yeah.
but
Self-serving.
yeah, tell the story about
Yeah.
how a customer had a transformation by
Yeah.
doing what it is that you're expressing that you believe you want people to contact you and come and
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. Because people don't care what you know until they know that you care. And when you can create that story around what it is they're dealing with, then it kind of starts to resonate. Um, and you mentioned Nike and the whole "Just Do It" campaign. Yeah, I mean, that's something that has always stuck in my head. Have you ever seen the movie Air that came out a couple of years ago with Matt
Hair.
Damon and It's called Air. Matt
Oh,
Damon and Ben
hair.
Affleck. Air and Viola Davis. It's about how Nike took off. And how they took off was when they finally signed Michael Jordan, and it's about the process of them getting Michael Jordan to be their spokesman. And it's not the best movie I've ever seen, but it's worth a watch if you're into that um, idea of how they were able to create that story around their brand. The Air Jordan brand, how they were able to create that. It's worth a watch. It's worth a watch if you really, but check it out.
It sounds like something I would be interested in. I want to go back just for a second and mention that when we're talking about brand, we're talking about
Hmm.
something that, to the best of your ability, you need to basically make it as iconic as you can make it.
Oh yeah,
When people see
correct.
your brand, they need to have consistency there, and they need to know at first glimpse what it is you are and what you stand for. And
Yeah.
that's only done through careful consideration and planning. A lot of times
Hmm.
I mention brand to people, and someone will say, well, I already have a logo. Well, maybe you do, but is that logo something that anybody's going to remember? Or what do you do beyond that logo? Do you tie your colors of that logo into
Yeah.
anything else that you do? Uh, do you have branded stories? Do you have branded
Hmm.
content? Is everything that you put out in your communications tied into uh, somehow being part of your brand, somehow communicating what your brand is to
Hmm.
your audience, while at the same time adding massive value? Because
Yeah.
when you get out there and communicate your brand to the public, to your target market, they don't want to keep hearing you sell, sell, sell. I'm the greatest. I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. They want to know something that is so useful that,
Yeah.
as one of our mentors, Sajjad Hussein, likes to say, massive
Hmm.
value is when they will take out a pad and paper. A pad is
Yeah.
paper. Take out a pad and pen and write something down. That's massive value. And if you keep
It
putting
is.
branded content out there with massive value, you will attract that audience that knows that
Yeah.
not only do you care about them, but you can help them through what their main problems are. You know, your target
Yeah.
audience has a problem. They want to solve it. If you can genuinely show that you can help them solve it, not solve it for them, but help them solve it, that's most of the
Hmm.
battle won. You're going to turn them from customers, I mean, from uh, viewers, from what's the word I'm looking for? From fans into
Fans to
customers. Yeah,
customers. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
And yeah, I think, I hate to keep going back to Nike, but I'm going to just go back there for one time. I think some of their most effective ad campaigns were not the ones with famous athletes, but they were the ones where it was just everyday Joes and Sallys doing something athletic. And they kind of gave you that message. Hey, you don't need to be a world-class athlete. You can do it yourself. Here's our shoes. They're selling their shoes, obviously, but you can do it yourself. You can go run a marathon. You can do whatever it is you want to do. You have the opportunity to do that, and that's what's stored. Now, let me ask you this way: what differentiates between marketing and PR? How do you differentiate between those 2?
You know, there's a fine line in some cases, but
Mm-hmm.
marketing has usually to do with things that you pay for, although you pay the PR person. But PR is a more of an organic reach in the sense that, let's say you're doing a PR campaign and you're looking to get coverage for an event that your company is doing. You want to get coverage either in local media, newspapers, radio stations, or even national media. You want to attract national media. And
Yeah,
PR is more an organic process where when you do attract the attention of that media and they do want to do a story or a feature or some way to spotlight you, it's more
yeah,
impactful to your audience than advertising. You know, with advertising, it's a given. If I
yeah,
spend $10,000, with a major newspaper for, some kind of a campaign, it's a given. Those ads are going to be on their pages. But PR is a little bit different. If I can attract the attention of a reporter on behalf of a customer and get that reporter to want to call that customer and do a story on their event, then that story is so much more effective than the advertising, because the
yeah,
reality of it is when most of us look through print media or even broadcast media, we tune out the ads unless something is so impactful in an ad that it draws our attention. We tend to tune
yeah,
it out. We skip over them on pages. Uh, when they come up on television, for example, we hit the remote and mute it. We don't really listen
yeah,
to the ads. And, it's amazing how much money is spent. But PR would get somebody on the local news as a
yeah,
story, not as an ad. So that's
yeah.
one distinction.
And PR also comes into play when you screw up your brand and you violate your brand. PR comes in and cleans up the mess for you.
That's correct.
And we've
That's
seen we've seen we've seen that time and time again.
That's what we call crisis PR. And since
Yeah.
you mentioned it, I'll mention just a few things about crisis PR and what you should do if you really do screw up your brand. There was a famous case with a bake shop that a customer went into that bake shop and something wasn't right. I don't remember if it was customer service or it was quality of the product. And they
Yeah.
complained on social media. And what did the company do? They flamed that person on
Yeah.
social
Don't do
media
that.
and the
Don't do
whole
that.
thing went viral. Next thing you know, there were like 50, 60,000 people engaged in conversations about how
Yeah.
heartless it really was for that company to do what they did instead of
Yeah.
learning their lesson. So in crisis PR, when you screw up like that, number one, if you have a PR person like myself, call, because you don't want to approach the
Mhm.
media in crisis PR without your PR guy, any more than
Yeah.
if you've been charged with a crime, you want to go down and face the police without your lawyer. But
Yeah.
if you are in that position, there's just a few things you can do. One is, number one, get the highest ranking person in your organization to get out there and become the public face with it and
Yeah.
say, okay, we really screwed up here. We really screwed up
Yeah.
here, but we want to learn from this
Hmm.
from this experience, and we really care about what we can do to make sure it doesn't happen again. And here's some of the steps we're taking to rebuild and hold on to your confidence and show that we're listening.
Yeah.
Those are the steps that you take in
Yeah,
crisis
it's some of
PR.
the best things I've seen where people will, customer will come in and flame out somebody on social media. Some of the best responses I've seen, from the business. Hey, we're sorry we failed you in this situation. How can we make it better? And you kind of throw it back at them, but you're doing it in a non-threatening way.
Oh,
And
sure.
yeah, you just kind of throw it back to them. And so, and you mentioned advertising. I think there's, some people really confuse advertising and marketing. I'm sure you've seen the show Mad Men.
I've seen one or two of them. I
Oh, you never. Oh, okay. That's
It
probably
was
my favorite. One of
funny.
my.
It was really good.
Yeah.
I don't watch a lot of television. I have a few
Okay, I
favorite
get it.
things that I
Yeah,
watch, but I don't watch a lot
yeah.
of television. You know,
Okay,
it,
that was probably one of my favorite shows of all time. Was the show Mad Men. It was about an advertising agency.
hmm
And you mentioned that people will flip through, but it's those catchy ads that will catch people's eye. How they, things that catch people's eyes, and you have, because we do have a short attention span, and you got to
Right.
catch people quick.
But going back to marketing, marketing can be along the lines of what I was talking about earlier when you're sharing branded content with massive
Yeah.
value. That's
Hmm.
marketing because you put it out there, you keep putting your brand out there, you keep putting value out there, and it brings a return, or it's got a potential for bringing the return of having people want to know more about what it is you do. And some of
Right.
them will get on your calendar for one-on-one meetings, and they'll start coming to you. It's that old
Yeah.
concept that we've been talking about recently, about building a butterfly garden. You want to bring in the
Okay.
butterflies. You bring
Yeah.
you put out the flowers that are going to
Yeah.
attract them, and that's
Yeah.
what marketing really is. Marketing is getting your message out there in such a way that you've built your butterfly garden, and your customers
Yeah.
will start seeking you out.
And some people get, some people are trying to embark on the entrepreneurial journey that, maybe they don't realize how much of a slog it can be. And, they think, oh, I've been doing this for a month. Why is it not? Well, it takes time. It takes time, man. You got to, it just takes time, and you just got to be consistent with it. But I think, one of the things that's most important is, when you're trying to attract clients, know those pain points, know what it is that, how you can market to them and make them a potential client, and understanding what it is. Because I kind of go back to, people don't care what you know until they know you care. And when you're speaking to that pain point, it makes them feel like, hey, you're speaking directly to me on this.
That's right. That's right. And the pain points, every customer has them, every target audience has them. And unless you understand your target audience, if you're just out there throwing a bunch of stuff up against the wall, thinking that some of it's going to stick, or hoping that some of it's going to stick, then
Yeah.
you're in for a rude awakening because it's really not going to stick, and you're going to keep hearing crickets out there. But when it comes to the pain points, I'll give a fictitious example. I'm making this one
Okay.
up, but if somebody has come up with a device that you could put in the baby's room, and it puts out either a sound or a frequency that can take a crying baby and soothe them and calm them so they go to sleep. Well, that person will soon be, a millionaire, if not a billionaire, because everybody who's ever had babies know they're going to keep you up at
Yeah.
night with crying, and some more so than others. So, it's not enough then to take that product and say, we've got the greatest thing for babies since sliced bread. We've got this thing that, it soothes babies. Use Zoom right in. If you're building a website, for example, You get that pain point right up there at the top
Hmm.
of your website. Your pain point is the first thing you lead with. Is your baby keeping you up night after night? Are you at wit's end with that baby crying? And then you have a solution. You have a solution. You have a targeted solution. Here is what you do. And then you can get into how the product is going to do that for the baby. But
Yeah.
otherwise, all of the features of the product mean nothing. It's the result, and it's the solving of the pain point. Yeah, which brings us into what I just saw on the screen: how websites fail to deliver.
Yeah. What are some of the biggest fails you've seen on a website?
I'll give you an example of something that I just saw recently. I went to one of the networking meetings. I think this one was from Mini Shark Tank, which is a great
Okay.
meeting. If any of you guys have not been to Mini Shark Tank, look it up and go to Mini Shark Tank. So I had a meeting with this woman, and she showed me her website, and she was so proud that she built this website. And for people who don't know how to build websites, it actually is quite an accomplishment to build a website.
Yeah.
But she shared it with me prior to the meeting in the information that we exchanged. And I hopped on this site and I looked at it, and I looked at a homepage that went on and on and on. I mean, it was worse than one of those long form landing pages, the sales pages where you keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And each section was as dense and complex as the section before it. And after a while, you just you went into a fog. You had no idea what it is that she was up to or what she was selling. And then it clicked onto another link, to another page that went on and on and on. And I looked at 4 or 5 pages of dense content that I just could not wrap my brain around before I saw a single call to action. Now, she
Yeah.
thought that people wanted all of this information, and then 4 or 5 pages later, they would still be there for her call to action. But that, I guarantee you, is a very
Yeah.
underperforming website. And another
Yeah.
example I like to give is that I look at a website and it becomes very, very obvious that somebody spent a lot of money for this website. It's got
Yeah.
all the bells and whistles. It's got scrolling photos. It's got video. It's got car chases. Well, maybe not car chases, but you see where I'm going with that. It's got
Yeah.
all of that
Yeah.
stuff.
There's a lot of action. A lot of action. A lot of
Yeah, it
like this. Yeah.
dazzles. It's like, it
Yeah.
blows you away with its visual originality. But then I walk away scratching my head again, thinking, what do they do? What are they offering? What problems do they solve? You always
Yeah.
have to get back to who is your ideal customer? What are your ideal customers' pain points? And how can you help them solve it? Otherwise, if you don't have those things, your website can be very, very expensive, but then it's little more than just an online business card.
Yeah. Yeah. And what would be your advice to somebody who, maybe has stepped away from a corporate gig and they kind of want to pursue an entrepreneurial, when I first got into it, I had people saying, "Well, you need a website. You need a website. You need a website." And they're pitching me, $4,000 and $5,000 websites. I'm like, dude, I'm just starting out. Just let me get my feet under me first. So, what would be your advice to somebody who's just kind of starting something new and they want a website because it kind of gives you what I call some street cred. You got a website, it gives you street cred. What would be your advice to that person who's starting out new?
Well, that's almost a loaded question because although, unlike some of the people that I know who are in a similar business to mine who don't work with startups, I will work
Yeah.
with startups, but I like to work with startups that are at least reasonably funded to the point where I
Yeah.
won't tell them you need a website that's going to cost X or you need a
Yeah.
logo and a full brand that's going to cost X. And they come back and say,
Hmm.
dude, I can go to Fiverr and I can buy that. I could buy that logo for $50, and I could go to Fiverr and I could buy that website for like $500. And
Okay.
I always tell them, good luck with that. Good luck with that. Because number one, you're not going to have a brand. You're not going to have a website that performs. In the end, you're going to have to start over again and do it the
Yeah.
right way. But, I do, if you look on my own website and people come to me, I do have some introductory packages that don't break the bank. They're not the cheapest
Hmm.
on the block, but you
Yeah.
know, it's that old axiom that you get what you pay for. If you want
Yeah.
there to be some results, you're going to have to take some steps. You're going to have to
Yeah.
judiciously put some investment into it.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you
I
have to
agree.
mortgage your house to build that website, I will advise you not to. But
Yeah.
be prepared to budget what you're going to need to get
Yeah.
yourself started and get it started right because it's more expensive to do it wrong.
Yeah. I
One more
agree. You try and be cheap, you're going to pay a bigger cost in the end.
thing I want to tell you about going out to somebody like Fiverr. There's a company here in Western North Carolina. They're a branding and marketing company. I know them. I like them. They're great
Hmm.
people. Uh, they have a logo that they designed, a name that they came up with, a whole branded image. Well,
Okay.
one day they looked up their name just for the hell of it, and they found a company somewhere in Georgia. It didn't matter that the company took their name because it wasn't in the same business. They were
Yeah.
some kind of a what's the word, a manufacturer of something. But
Okay.
the worst part of it is that they took their logo. It was a custom designed logo that they made, and they took that logo. They said the company told them they paid $100 at Fiverr to get that logo. And they said, well,
Okay.
the horrible part of it is that whoever it was that sold you that stole our custom designed, logo, and now
Yeah.
it's going to cost you a lot more. We're not going to sue you for it, but you need to
Well.
take it down. That means that big sign that you spent a lot of money for in front of your building is going to have to change. Your business cards, your stationery, everything's going to
Yeah.
have to change.
Yeah.
So basically, by being cheap, that company spent a whole lot more money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I would think they'd almost have a lawsuit against whoever did that as well, because there's got to be some kind of copyright infringement on that. I would have to believe there has to be.
well, they knew they could have had a lawsuit, but that wasn't their intention. Their intention was
Yeah.
just, go ahead, use the name, do whatever you want with the name, because we didn't invent the name, but
Yeah.
you must take down all references to our
Well,
logo.
what I'm saying is the company that got caught short like that, they could definitely have a case against whoever gave that to them.
True, true, but even though these these I want to call them cheap logo companies and cheap service companies are cheap, they get so much business that they do have deep pockets. So, how much
Yeah.
time and money and energy do you want to spend to try to sue them?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
You find the right attorney, you'll take it on a contingency basis. So yeah, there's plenty of, shark attorneys out there that would love that case. And hey, you know
true that. You can go to the law offices of sock 'em, screw 'em, and burn 'em.
Yes, yes. Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe. They're
Yeah,
a good
Dewey,
a good
Cheatham, and
firm as
Howe. There you
well.
go. But I don't want to pay, I don't want to, cast a negative light on attorneys
No,
because
I hear it. No, I get it.
attorneys are like everyone else,
Yeah,
marketers. I mean, you can find snake oil marketers and you can find people who really care about you, care about your brand, and want to see you do the right thing. So, yeah, it's like
I
that
agree.
everywhere.
I agree. I agree. I agree. And it's building that relationship. When I bring somebody on as a client, I'm building that relationship. There's a relationship that's been established, and they can trust me, and I want them to whatever they're hiring me for. I want to see them succeed with that. And there's got to be that relationship that's built there, that bond that's built, because that bond is powerful.
Yes, it is. And, people talk about know, like, and trust. I call it the power trio, but of those three, I think the most important one is trust. I'll do
Oh yeah,
business with people that I really don't like as long as
yeah.
I know they're honest and their work,
Hmm?
speaks for itself. I do
Yeah.
business unlike a lot of people that I know, and I'm not going to wax political here because that's like poison. But I do business with people who were totally 100% diametrically
Oh, I agree.
opposed to my political points of view because why? It's business. And I'm
Yeah.
friends with a lot of these people. You know, we don't have to agree on things,
Yeah, I
but we
agree.
do have
I
to
agree.
agree on what is our business goal and how can we work together to accomplish that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. The one thing that binds us all is green, and you kind of swerved into something there, which just I think it can be the detriment of our society is that certain people won't work with other people because they believe a certain thing. And when we create those silos, it doesn't end well. It just doesn't end well.
Some people
Just
won't
saying.
watch movies if the actor, doesn't have their political beliefs. And I think that, in my
Yeah,
humble opinion, that's ridiculous. There's a number of Clint Eastwood movies that I've really enjoyed. I don't think anything less of the Clint Eastwood movies because Clint Eastwood
yeah,
has a different political affiliation than me. Um,
yeah.
yeah, so, and it's like that. It's like that on both sides of the spectrum.
Oh, it is.
To
Oh, it
me,
is. I
to
agree.
me, one of the best actors out there is Robert De Niro. I mean, he's always been an incredible actor, but people
Yeah,
will demonize him now because his political beliefs are different than theirs. But you know what? I say, get a
yeah,
life and get over it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just get over. I agree. I agree. I can. Yeah, I agree. And just yeah, I agree. We got to get past this, and I guess we're kind of swerving into a little politics here, without getting political. But we have to get past this if we want to survive as a country. We have to move past it. And you're right. It's just the fringes. I put 10% on either side, and us 80% that are stuck in the middle. We're just like, hey, will you people just shut the f up and just let me live my life? I don't care. Let me live my life. Let me
There
live my
you go.
life. And
You know
um,
me, how everything reminds me of a song. You know that with me. So,
it
clowns
is.
to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. I had an opportunity last week. There's a to do a presentation on one of my favorite songs, the songs that I grew up with, and one of the bands that really spoke to me growing up as a 16-year-old was the Clash. Were you ever into the Clash?
I have enjoyed things from the Clash. I never went out of my way and bought Clash albums, but
Okay, well,
Clash.
I did.
Yeah,
I
I
was
know,
all in. I was all in on the Clash.
but they are in the category that I say if I've ever heard them on the radio, they're not a group that I would ever turn off on the radio. And there's a lot
Oh
of
yeah,
groups like that. And
yeah,
I kind of missed a lot of that '80s, the punk kind of scene, but
yeah,
I've seen some brilliance in it as well. I've
yeah,
not gone out
yeah.
and bought the albums, but anyway, go back to your story of the Clash.
No, my story, The Clash. I mean, if you're really into music, I'm going to tell you one of the best albums I ever purchased in my life. 16 years old, the album London Calling, and I knew nothing. I knew at that point I really knew nothing about the Clash, but I did know the song "Train in Vain" was playing on the radio. I'm like, okay, this is pretty good. This is a pretty good song. And I went to the record store I'd go to in Columbus, Ohio, called Peaches, and I saw that album and the album cover. I'm like, huh, this is a pretty cool album cover because and actually I didn't doing a little backstory on it. The album cover pays homage to the original Elvis Presley album because it's the same lettering, same design, with the exception on the Clash. There's when he's got his guitar like this and he's ready to smash it. I bought it, and I that's one of those albums that I probably wore the grooves off because I listened to it so much and just this it's some of those songs that like I said to me are timeless. I can still listen to those songs,
Yeah, they are timeless. And if I am in the car listening to the radio, here in Western North Carolina, there's a station called WNCW. It comes out of
yeah.
Spindale, North Carolina, and there's a college there, Isothermal Community College. And
Isothermal Community College, that's quite a
yeah,
name.
it is a funny
what
name.
what what's their mascot? What I got to know what their
I don't
mascot
know. I
is.
don't know. I don't know. That would be good branding. I should look it up. But the point about that station, WNCW, it's so eclectic. One minute you
Yeah.
could be listening to The Clash. The next minute you're listening to Bruce Springsteen. The next minute
Okay.
you could be hearing something from Dolly Parton, or you could
Okay.
be hearing Roxy music. I mean, there's not a format of specific music. You hear the best of today's music and you hear the best of
Yeah.
music from all the various decades. And I dig that
Yeah.
because left to my own devices, I would still be stuck in the 70s listening to, British prog rock
Oh,
music.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It just well, and the Clash were kind of anti that prog music. The anti, and I like Led Zeppelin, but the 8 minute Led Zeppelin tracks, and I love Pink Floyd. And Pink Floyd has some great songs, but some of those songs would go on forever and ever. But they were kind of the anti that. That's my understanding of what punk rock was kind of the anti, because all their songs are like 3 minute songs.
well,
But
something you bring that up. One of my favorite prog groups from back in the day was King Crimson, and those were the ones that I wore out the grooves on. However, in the
okay,
80s, Robert Fripp retooled King Crimson into a small, tight group that was basically a kind of a minimalist, almost punk sound. I mean, they weren't a
okay.
punk group, but man, the '80s King Crimson was diametrically, juxtaposed with the '60s and '70s King Crimson, and they picked up a pretty good audience on their own when they were in that incarnation.
Yeah. Yeah, all I know is this. The Rolling Stones are still on tour, and they are great grandfathers. I went and saw the Rolling Stones in 1995, and I'm thinking, oh, this has got to be this. They're on the backside of their career. They're still going.
That's right.
I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how Keith Richards is still among the living. That's what I don't know. That's what I can't understand.
That's true. But you look at Jagger and he's what, 81, 82, something like that.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
he could still get out there on the stage and prance and dance all over the place for two
yeah.
hours.
I mean, he
So
still has the voice. He still has the voice. That as long as he has the voice, okay. He still has the chops. He can sing it and belt it out.
there you go.
Um,
My wife
so
would argue about whether he ever had much of a voice, but
yeah, well,
he is.
I was never. I'll be honest. I was never much into the Stones. I mean, there's some songs I enjoy, I can listen to, but I was never like, oh, I gotta have every stone. No,
They're
I was
from my
never a big.
era, and I love them.
Yeah,
And you know, but I don't know what any stuff they've done in the last 20 years might be about. But anyway,
no,
they have a brand, so I'm pulling
they
us back,
do.
I'm segueing
Yeah,
back
they do.
into, yeah.
Yeah, we got off the rails here, so pull us back in. So
There you go. When they put out that logo with the tongue,
yeah,
that became
yeah,
synonymous with the Rolling Stones, and that became an icon. That means the Rolling Stones. You see those big lips and that tongue,
hmm
that's
yeah,
Rolling Stones, and that I think was a brilliant branding on their part.
yeah. I agree. I agree. And I think of other bands that have that brand. Led Zeppelin, that specific lettering that they have. That's definitely part of their brand. And um, but yeah, and yeah, Pink Floyd. You think of Pink Floyd, you think of the triangle with the light going through it. That's
Yeah,
Dark Side
that's
of the
the
Moon.
dark side
That's
of
it.
the moon.
Says it away. Yeah. That's the one thing. That's the one thing that when growing up, that to me, that made music great were the album covers. We don't have those anymore. That's one of the downsides of digital music, because some of those album covers were classic,
That's right.
absolute classic.
And you can still see them on CDs. I mean, CDs are still out there
Yeah,
for sale. They're not as popular as they once were, but they're like,
yeah. Other this, but the whole LP where you'd open it, or sometimes you'd open it up and you'd get a little sheet that was in there that had maybe all the song lyrics on it, or maybe there was a poster in there. There were some albums I got, there would be a little small poster. You don't get that anymore.
that's right. Well, times change. And those of
Yeah.
us who have the flexibility to go with the flow, to
Mhm.
change with the times, to
Mhm.
to revamp our ways of thinking so that we're not totally stuck in the past and become
Yeah.
dinosaurs. That's
Right.
how we can still continue to be relevant, even though
Yeah.
the age keeps changing
It is.
and the methods keep changing. Yeah,
And I agree. Change is important. Change in how you brain your, you got to be willing to go with the change. And I don't want to be the get off my lawn guy. But that was the one thing that I loved about music back in the day were just the album covers. And I don't know if those that are really into music today, that really resonates with them so much. Because that was part of the experience was having the cover. And the great covers there was a message with the cover as well.
But you know what's interesting? I think it was last year, for the first time in decades, uh, vinyl records outsold CDs in the
Yeah.
United States. And with that came the album covers, the return of the album covers. You could buy Sergeant
Hmm.
Pepper by the Beatles and get that incredible album cover. You could buy those
Hmm.
double album sets from some of the prog
Yeah.
bands and have those incredible album covers. So they say everything, turns full circle. What was old becomes new. What was new will become old. I think that in the Bible they said to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven. And
Yeah.
Pete Seeger put that to music, and then the Birds made it famous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said,
Yeah,
there's nothing new under the sun. There is nothing new under the sun, and I absolutely believe that. We may think we're sophisticated because we give it a fancy name, but it's something that we've been dealing with for thousands of years, and that's what it is. So,
that's right. Hey, earlier at the beginning of the show, you called me MC Biz Booma. I
yes,
want
I did.
in the
Yes, I
house.
did. So,
I
so,
want to
so
bring him
tell
up.
us about MC Biz Booma.
I want to bring him up for a couple of reasons. Number one is I was in the Whole Foods in Asheville. This was
Okay.
about a year ago. And I looked
Yeah.
up at the cashier. I mean, really looked up at the cashier because the guy was like 6'6", and he
Yeah.
was the spitting image of Snoop Dogg. I said,
Okay.
"Dude, you look like somebody." And he said, "Yeah, I know. I look like Snoop Dogg." He said, "I wish I had his millions." I said, "Can you rap?" He said, "Nah, I can't rap." And he said to me, "Can you rap?" And I said, "Well, I sort of can rap, but is there a market who would want to watch an old boomer rapping?" Well, I mentioned that to Sajjad Hussein, and he
Yes.
said, "Nah, dog, that'll blow up." And that was the birth of MC Biz Booma. And that was a perfect example of imperfect action. I like that, a perfect example of imperfect action. I had no clue what I was doing when I started MC Biz Booma. I knew that I could write
Yeah.
raps and I knew that I could memorize them and speak them. But the whole process uh, of posting to TikTok and other platforms every single day and then tying it into a business lesson. MC Biz Booma gives 15-second little ditties about business in rap. And I'm picking up traction. Have I gone viral? I haven't yet. But
Yeah.
you keep putting
You
it
never
out
know.
there. Keep
Keep
putting it
putting it
out
out
there.
there. You
Exactly.
never know. So if they want to follow you on TikTok, just go to @Hank Eder. They can follow you or MC Biz Booma on TikTok. And if people want to reach out to you directly, they can just go ahead and drop you an email.
That's correct. That's correct. Or
Okay.
they could get on my calendar if they'd like to talk about their brand, their logo, events that they might want publicity on, or if they just want to see how, in various ways, we can work together. I'll tell them what I do, they can tell me what they do, and maybe we'll find some common ground.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Absolutely. And that's what's important about those calls, finding that common ground and just giving, like I say, giving people the opportunity to share something about themselves and you're sharing about what you do. And I think that's what's important about the opportunity to have those calls. And I think, each and every day is an opportunity to do that. Hey, you know what else is an opportunity? Can I share something else that was an opportunity with you? The virtual Friday whiskey hours coming up this Friday at 5 o'clock Eastern. You've stopped by that before, haven't you, Hank?
yes, I did. And the last time we talked about generations, and it was wonderful because,
Yes.
that's one of
Yeah.
my focuses, the generations and the things that we have in common rather than the things that tear us
Yeah.
apart. Yeah.
That's
So
it. I agree. I agree. And, I don't know what I'm going to talk about this week. I haven't really sat down to give it, but I always try and come up with something that's of interest to me and just kind of try and form the conversation around that. Some people said, hey, I don't like whiskey. You know what? There's no requirement to drink whiskey. The word whiskey is just a hook. People see whiskey and like, ooh, what's this now? I got to check this out. So, as a matter of fact, there's no requirement to drink anything. Just stop by, check it out. I would love the opportunity to connect with you there, and it's an opportunity to connect with other people. I've had many people that have been able to create those connections just from that event. Hey, I'm coming up on, let's see, 2.5 years of doing this. And you want to talk about imperfect action? This is something that just totally started imperfectly. Just did it. I'm like, all right, I'll do this. And hey, this is where we're at right now. So I'll keep I'll keep on keeping on with it and see where this takes us. So, but hey, Hank, I appreciate it. We're coming up on it here. Is there any parting wisdom you would like to give before we call this one a day?
okay, I would say if you have a message that you want to get out there, consistency is your key. You, Rob, mentioned earlier on in the show that people say, well, I've been doing this for a month now and I haven't made it over the top. Consistency. Get a clear message, add value, and be consistent. Get it out there every day, and you will see
Yeah.
results.
And yeah, you're right. You got to be clear. You have to have clarity around what it is you want to. That's one of the ways I help people, help them to build clarity around what it is they want to do because the words we use are powerful. Words mean things, and we have to use those words that speak to what it is we're doing and how we can serve others in a powerful way. And that to me is what life is about. We've been given this life for a reason, and I absolutely believe is to serve others, do it out of abundance because when we allow life to flow through us and out into others in an abundant fashion, what returns to us is tenfold. Absolutely believe that.
Yes, I have to agree with that 100%.
Okay. Well, Hank, I have appreciated this conversation. I learned a lot about marketing and PR. Brand is important. Once you create that brand, don't violate it. You guard it with everything you have because what you can take you years and years and years to build up with that brand, you can be gone in a second if you aren't careful with it.
That's right. Gone. What was that movie? Gone in 60 Seconds? Is that what the name of it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think I
you
will.
can
Yeah,
be.
or
You
yeah,
can be. Hey, thanks for
yeah.
having me here. This was a pleasure.
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate it. Again, tomorrow at 2 o'clock, we'll have another Imperfect Action live stream. My guest will be Greg Hess. We'll have an opportunity to explore some imperfect action with him as well. But hey, I appreciate everybody who stopped by. I hope you got some value out of this, and we will talk again. Peace out.
Peace out.